In the chaotic aftermath of Germany's defeat in the First World War, a current of deep national humiliation and political turmoil swept through the fledgling Weimar Republic. It was within this volatile environment that numerous secret societies and esoteric groups emerged, offering alternative explanations for Germany's fall and promising a path to national rebirth. Among the most influential and mysterious of these was the Thule Society, or Thule Gesellschaft, founded in Munich in 1918. This organization was not merely a club for eccentrics interested in ancient myths. It was a potent crucible where occult beliefs, virulent anti-Semitism, and radical right-wing politics were fused together, laying some of the ideological groundwork for what would become the Nazi Party. Its story is a stark reminder of how fringe ideas can seep into the political mainstream with devastating consequences. The Thule Society presented itself publicly as a literary and cultural study group, a harmless facade that concealed its true, far more sinister purpose. Its founder, Rudolf von Sebottendorf, established the Munich Lodge as an offshoot of a larger Germanic order, the Germanen Orden, which was already steeped in racial mysticism and a deep-seated hatred for Jews and other perceived enemies of the German people. Sebottendorf envisioned a secret order that would operate behind the scenes, using its influence to combat the perceived threats of communism, Judaism, and Freemasonry. The society provided a gathering place for disgruntled aristocrats, disillusioned academics, and military veterans who felt betrayed by the armistice and the subsequent political revolution, creating a powerful network of individuals united by a shared sense of grievance and a desire for radical change. At its core, the allure of the Thule Society was its blending of the mystical with the political, a potent combination for a populace searching for meaning in a time of profound crisis. Members were drawn to its elaborate mythology, which centered on the lost Aryan homeland of Thule, a mythical northern island believed to be the cradle of a superior, godlike race. This narrative provided a powerful sense of historical destiny and racial pride, suggesting that Germans were the direct descendants of these ancient supermen. By framing their political struggle in these epic spiritual terms, the society elevated its nationalist agenda into a sacred mission, a holy war to restore the purity and dominance of the Aryan race against the corrupting forces of the modern world. This secretive nature was fundamental to its operation and appeal, creating an atmosphere of exclusivity and shared purpose among its carefully selected members. The society was not open to the public, entry was by invitation only, and prospective members had to undergo a rigorous vetting process, including a declaration of their Aryan blood purity. This secrecy allowed for the free exchange of radical ideas that would have been unacceptable in open political discourse at the time. It fostered a sense of belonging to an elite vanguard, a clandestine brotherhood entrusted with the sacred duty of saving Germany from its internal and external enemies. This hidden influence would prove crucial in the early formative years of the far-right movement in post-war Munich. The ideological foundation of the Thule Society was a complex and dangerous mixture of folkish nationalism, Ariosophy, and esoteric occultism. Folkish thought emphasized the idea of a unique German folk or people, bound together by blood, land, and a shared spiritual essence. The Thule Society took this further by incorporating the tenets of Ariosophy, an esoteric doctrine that posited the existence of a superior Aryan race whose purity had been diluted over centuries through intermingling with inferior races. Its members believed they were the heirs to this ancient lineage and that their destiny was to reclaim their lost power. This worldview was inherently racist and anti-Semitic, identifying Jewish people as the primary spiritual and racial enemy of the Aryan people, a demonic force responsible for Germany's downfall and the rise of internationalism and communism. Central to the society's influence were its key members, who served as ideologues and mentors to the nascent far-right movement. Rudolf von Sebottendorf, the group's charismatic and enigmatic founder, was a practitioner of Sufi mysticism and astrology who skillfully wove together esoteric traditions with German nationalism. Another towering figure was Dietrich Eckart, a playwright, poet, and virulent anti-Semite who became an early mentor to Adolf Hitler. Eckart used his literary talents to popularize the society's ideas, publishing the anti-Semitic periodical Auf gut Deutsch in plain German, and shaping Hitler's early public speaking style. He saw in Hitler the potential for a messianic leader who could translate the society's esoteric beliefs into a powerful mass political movement. Other prominent members included Rudolf Hess, who would later become Hitler's deputy, and Alfred Rosenberg, who would become the chief ideologue of the Nazi Party. Hess was deeply involved in the society's occult practices and maintained a lifelong interest in astrology and alternative medicine, reflecting the deep integration of esoteric thinking within the early Nazi leadership. Rosenberg, meanwhile, developed the society's racial theories into a more systematic and pseudo-scientific doctrine in his later work, The Myth of the 20th Century. These individuals were not just passive members. They were active participants in a network that shared, refined, and disseminated a worldview that would soon engulf the nation in its hateful ideology. The society's secret rituals further reinforced its sense of elite purpose and mystical mission. Meetings were held in lavish hotels and private residences, often involving lectures on Germanic runes, ancient mythology, and racial theory. These gatherings were more than just political discussions. They were quasi-religious ceremonies designed to awaken the supposed dormant Aryan spiritual power within the members. The symbolism of the swastika, which the society adopted as a symbol of the Aryan race long before the Nazi Party, was central to their iconography. This blending of arcane ritual with political conspiracy created a powerful bond among its members, convincing them that they were part of a sacred struggle that transcended mere politics and touched upon the very destiny of the world. The Thule Society did not remain a mere debating club for long. Its leadership understood that to achieve their goals, they needed to translate their esoteric worldview into concrete political action. Their first major foray into the public sphere was the establishment of a paramilitary force known as the Kampfbund Thule, which participated in the brutal street fighting against communist revolutionaries in Munich in 1919. This direct action demonstrated the society's commitment to violently opposing its perceived enemies and established its reputation as a formidable force on the extreme right. However, its leaders recognized that paramilitary violence alone was not enough. They needed a political vehicle to reach the masses, particularly the working class, which they feared was being seduced by Marxism. This strategic ambition led directly to one of the most fateful moments in modern history: the creation of the German Workers' Party, Deutsche Arbeiterpartei, or DAP. In January 1919, the Thule Society, through one of its members, the sports journalist Karl Harrer, sponsored the foundation of this small political circle. The goal was to create a party that could appeal to nationalistic workers by combining a pro-German anti-Semitic message with socialist-sounding rhetoric about breaking the shackles of finance capital, which they equated with Jewish influence. The Thule Society provided the DAP with its initial funding, ideological direction, and meeting spaces, effectively acting as its secret patron and guiding hand in its infancy. It was into this Thule-sponsored environment that a young Adolf Hitler, then an army intelligence agent tasked with spying on radical groups, first walked in September 1919. He was immediately captivated by the party's blend of nationalism and anti-Semitism, and his powerful oratory skills quickly made him its most valuable asset. Key Thule figures like Dietrich Eckart and Alfred Rosenberg recognized his potential and took him under their wing, grooming him for leadership. Eckart, in particular, became a father figure to Hitler, introducing him to influential circles in Munich, refining his ideas, and helping to finance the purchase of the Völkischer Beobachter, which became the official Nazi newspaper and was originally owned by Sebottendorf. The German Workers' Party was soon rebranded as the National Socialist German Workers' Party, NSDAP, or the Nazi Party, and Hitler's influence rapidly eclipsed that of its original founders, while the direct operational link to the Thule Society began to weaken as the Nazi Party grew into a mass movement. Its foundational impact was undeniable. The party's core tenets, the belief in Aryan supremacy, the obsession with a Jewish world conspiracy, the use of the swastika, and the vision of a national rebirth were all incubated within the secret meetings of the Thule Society. The society had successfully created its political monster, a movement that could carry its dark, occult-infused ideology out of the shadows and onto the national stage. As the Nazi Party grew in size and strength throughout the early 1920s, the direct influence of the Thule Society began to wane. Adolf Hitler, a pragmatic and ruthless politician, understood that a mass movement required a public face and a simplified populist message, not the arcane rituals and esoteric doctrines that characterized the secret society. He began to distance himself and the party from the more overt occultism of its early patrons, recognizing that such associations could alienate potential supporters and make the movement appear eccentric or fringe. The Thule Society had served its purpose as an incubator, providing the initial ideology, key personnel and financial support. But its secretive, elitist structure was ill-suited for the demands of mass politics. Rudolf von Sebottendorf himself fell out of favor with the Nazi leadership. After returning to Germany in 1933, he published a book titled Before Hitler Came, in which he boasted about the Thule Society's crucial role in creating the Nazi movement. This public claim to have been Hitler's forerunner infuriated the Führer, who was carefully cultivating a myth of himself as a singular, messianic figure who had forged the movement through his own genius alone. The book was quickly banned, and Sebottendorf was briefly arrested before fleeing to Turkey, effectively erasing the Society's official contribution from the Nazi narrative. The Nazi state, now consolidating its power, had no room for secret societies it did not control, and no tolerance for anyone claiming credit for its rise. Despite its gradual absorption and eventual dissolution into the broader Nazi movement, the legacy of the Thule Society is profound and chilling. It serves as a powerful historical case study of how esoteric and occult ideas, when combined with political extremism, can have catastrophic real-world consequences. The Society's racial mythology provided a pseudo-spiritual justification for the Nazis' genocidal policies, transforming political hatred into a sacred duty to purify the Aryan race. The belief in a cosmic battle between the forces of light, Aryans, and darkness, Jews, dehumanized their victims and enabled perpetrators to commit unimaginable atrocities with a sense of righteous purpose. This dark fusion of the mystical and the political remains a cautionary tale. Ultimately, the story of the Thule Society demonstrates the danger that lies at the intersection of conspiracy theories, racial mysticism, and political desperation. It highlights how a small group operating in the shadows can inject a potent ideological poison into the bloodstream of a society weakened by crisis. While the Nazi regime systematically dismantled or co-opted all independent organizations, including the secret societies that had once nurtured it, the Thulist DNA was already deeply embedded in its genetic code. The society itself may have faded into obscurity, but its dark brew of occultism and hate lived on, shaping the ideology that would lead Germany and the world into an abyss of unprecedented destruction and horror.